Welcome to the Game Informer Show, everyone. This is a weekly podcast covering the video game industry. Join us every Thursday for a discussion of the latest gaming news, reviews, and exclusive reveals alongside Game Informer staff and special guests from around the industry. I'm your host, Alex Van Aken, back from Japan. I'm not telling you where, but I'm back. And today I'm joined by Kyle Hilliard. How you doing, Kyle?
Hey, I never went anywhere. I've been here in Minnesota.
Thanks for handling hosting last week. I listened. It was a good episode. It was cool to hear Reeves back on the show. It was very good listening while traveling abroad. So thank you for handling all of that.
Yeah, thanks for letting me take it from you. I tried to have another Blake has bad opinions segment, but
I was hoping.
but he was busy. We had a couple bands we were going to talk about, but we'll save those for next time.
Yeah. Also joining us this week and rounding out the podcast this week, Marcus Stewart, my travel buddy. What's going on, Marcus?
Hey, yeah, I was in Japan too with you in your luggage. You brought me.
Yeah. I luckily, I got like the new medallion status. And the weight limits, are waived for me. So we figured we'd just save some money, have Marcus get into the suitcase because he's, a nimble guy.
Yeah. I dieted for weeks to make the weight limit. So you wouldn't get a fee.
The flat Stanley is what they call that, right? just where they stuff
That's
flat
what they call
Stanley
it,
in
I
an
guess.
envelope and shipped them across the country. We all know that story.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. I just had like flashbacks to that. Oh my God!
Of getting stuffed in an envelope and shipped across the country.
Exactly.
I don't know what that is. Flat. Stanley.
I didn't until
it sounded like
until you said the plot, and I was like, oh my God, I remember that.
It's a children's book.
Oh, okay. It sounded like innuendo at first.
No, nope.
No.
Just a real story of a kid who was flat who got stuffed in an envelope and shipped across the country because his parents were cheap.
Yeah. Well, Marcus and I are back.
Hold on real quick. I Googled Flat Stanley, and one of the first things is people also ask, what is the purpose of Flat Stanley?
You had a safe search on for that, right?
It's not sexual
hope so.
innuendo, Marcus. I don't know why you think it is.
You just never know what's been adopted and been, tainted.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
I don't trust the internet anymore, so.
I just like the idea that the internet is like, what's his purpose? Why do we have Flat Stanley?
Have you ever asked existential questions about your favorite children's books? I'm still hung up over the Hungry Caterpillar and what's the Rainbow Fish? Like,
I loved the Rainbow Fish.
Yeah, like what's the deal with those scales?
What's their purpose?
What's it really trying to say?
Weren't they like embossed or whatever? So like they were raised from the page a little?
It was pretty much like the bougiest kids book.
Yeah.
Let's do it for Game Informer. Let's do it. Come on.
That was the coffee table book.
Well, that's
for
Game
toddlers.
Informer Gold, basically, right?
That's
it's
true,
like the
actually,
Rainbow
yeah.
Fish of game magazines.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know where to get either of them now, but they are high quality. Anyways, we've got a big show. We're going to be talking about Microsoft's huge layoffs this week. Probably talk about the Last of Us HBO show and how that's going. And then we've all been playing some games. Tchia, PlateUp. We'll be talking a little bit about One Piece Odyssey some more. Pentiment, and if we have time, Case of the Golden Idol. But yeah, before we jump into the show, we are recording this a couple hours after it was announced that Fandom had laid off some of our peers and friends from Giant Bomb and GameSpot. So we just want to send love out to those people and encourage people to go and identify, you can probably find the people pretty easily if you search online, and just go show them some support. If they have any, some of them have Patreons and stuff, just try to, if you can, go and support the people that were affected by today's layoffs.
Yeah, it's funny. Former coworkers of mine from my stint at GameSpot, and then also Jason A. Striker, who worked at Game Informer for a long time before moving over to Giant Bomb. So yeah, just heartbreaking. The timing of my departure was right when Fandom was taking over, and everyone went into that with such optimism, and everyone was really excited for the future. So it's really heartbreaking to see this, and please, if go reach out to those folks and help where you can, boosting their signals and all that stuff.
Yeah. And man, there's just been layoffs across the gaming space this week on the media side of things, journalism outlets, as well as, actual developers at these studios. Microsoft laid off 10,000 people amidst their ongoing Activision Blizzard acquisition. This is, rough stuff. So just wanted to give people a heads up that this news section isn't going to be a fun one, but I think we definitely need to be talking about this stuff. Number one, to stay in the loop, but number two, there are always people behind the scenes doing the unsung work on the games that we get to enjoy. And it's a big shame when they are caught up in layoffs. I think, personally speaking, I think layoffs are often a failure of management, and I've been affected by layoffs multiple times. My family has, it's always awful, and I think in many cases can be avoided with proper foresight and maybe sacrifice from folks at the top. That's my personal take, but let's get into this story. We'll start with our quick summation of the events written by Wes, and then we'll go to a Kotaku story that kind of wraps it up even more. And all of this is kind of stemming from a Bloomberg report that occurred earlier this week. So credit goes to Bloomberg, and I believe it was Jason Schreier at Bloomberg. So yeah, let's get into this. So Wes wrote up this news story, GameInformer.com/news, saying, quote, Microsoft has laid off 10,000 employees. This news comes from a Bloomberg report detailing that Microsoft's layoffs come as the company attempts to reduce costs amid a larger economic slowdown. These layoffs come against Microsoft's ongoing fight against the FTC to acquire Call of Duty makers Activision Blizzard for a staggering $69 billion. Bloomberg reports that some people at Bethesda Game Studios, which is hard at work on getting Starfield ready for its release sometime in the first half of this year, were laid off, but that Halo Infinite developer 343 Industries was hit hardest in the company's portfolio of game studios. According to Bloomberg, Microsoft has plans to hire in, quote, strategic competitive areas, in quotes, like AI, but that other tech-focused departments like HoloLens and some engineering divisions were hit by these layoffs. Microsoft has not yet revealed exact numbers and specific departments surrounding this massive wave of layoffs. Another tech giant, Amazon, is in the middle of its own string of layoffs as the company aims to reduce its workforce by 18,000. And Wes kind of sums up the story, saying the hearts of Game Informer staff are with those who were affected by these layoffs. And yeah, so that's kind of like the fast and loose of it. If you have a subscription to Bloomberg, I mean, I just recommend going straight to the source. But I know a lot of people don't have access to, might not have a subscription to Bloomberg. So we're going to be going to Kotaku for round 2 on this story. So this was written by Levi Winslow. Their headline reads, Microsoft slashes 10K jobs, including at Xbox and Halo Studios. Getting into the body of the article, it reads, quote, following rumors earlier this week from Sky News, a tech giant, Microsoft has announced a slew of layoffs affecting 10,000 workers, some within its game studios, blaming slowing e-commerce sales and a potential economic recession. Kotaku has confirmed that a number of developers at 343 Industries, the Coalition, and Bethesda Game Studios are being laid off. According to a Bloomberg report, at least 878 positions in Microsoft's Washington location have been cut. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said the company began notifying affected employees today and plans to finish laying off the full 10,000 by Q3 of this year. Nadella attempted to spin the layoffs in a blog post, noting that the 10,000 cut jobs represent less than 5% of the total workforce. He claimed the company will invest in, quote, secure growth and long-term competitiveness, end quote, while providing support to folks impacted by the layoffs. The CEO added that because workers, quote, optimized their digital spend to do more with less, end quotes, some workforce reduction was necessary to align company costs and revenue with customer demands. However, he noted that Microsoft still plans to, quote, hire in key strategic areas, end quotes. When asked for comment, Microsoft pointed Kotaku to Nadella's statement. In recent times, affected Studio 343 Industries has had its hands full supporting Halo Infinite, the latest entry in the long-running sci-fi FPS series. Bethesda, on the other hand, of course, working on Starfield. I'm starting to editorialize here. It's just we've kind of gone over the recap at this point.
Yeah, and then Coalition's in there too, which is the Gears folks, you know.
And this isn't from one of those write-ups, but there has been some threads going around on Twitter lately from developers. Patrick Wren is the senior encounter designer on Jedi Survivor and formerly the senior multiplayer designer on Halo. And on January 18th, Patrick tweeted, quote, "The layoffs at 343 shouldn't have happened, and Halo Infinite should be in a better state. The reason for both of those things is incompetent leadership up top during Halo Infinite development, causing massive stress on those working hard to make Halo the best it can be." In a follow-up tweet, Patrick tweeted, quote, "The people I worked every day with were passionate about Halo and wanted to make something great for the fans. They helped push for a better Halo and got laid off for it. Devs still there are working hard on that dream. Look at Forge. Be kind to them during this awful time." But yeah, so it sounds like a lot of the campaign team was let go, as well as artists at 343. And then, of course, you know, people at ZeniMax, Bethesda, getting laid off as well.
I was just Googling because I wanted to see how long Bethesda has been, you know, part of Microsoft.
Yeah,
and it
hasn't been that long.
Yeah, it's been less than a year. I guess the sale was finalized on March 9th, which is, yeah, man, it's just so frustrating to see it, because it's like Microsoft is throwing around all this money to acquire studios, and then they're in the middle of this Activision merger, which is this, you know, huge sum of money. And it's like, I mean, I'm not an economist, but it's just so frustrating to see.
It just seems a little irresponsible.
Yeah.
You know, we've known that, you know, our markets, global markets, have been affected by COVID for 3 years. You know, it shouldn't come as a surprise that, you know, things aren't the best, you know, financially in the U.S. And I just wish there was a little more foresight going into these purchases.
But there is a refrain within the game industry that, like, video games have been great and only grew. You know, it was like one of the sort of industries that expanded over the course of the last couple of years, which was already huge as it was. So
I can't remember where I read this. So obviously don't quote me. Consider this speculation, because I don't have the source in front of me. But I had read that the gaming had seen like a 3% increase year over year, I believe, in terms of, you know, revenue. So it's continuing to grow, and 3% of billions is a lot of money.
Oh yeah, yeah. Could buy yourself a Bethesda with something.
Yeah,
like
for
that.
real. But yeah, it's just really frustrating, and you kind of start to wonder. I mean, and on top of news today of folks on the media side that cover the games industry getting laid off, it's just really frustrating. Like you said, Kyle, like there's just so much money that is, you know, flowing through like the industry, and it sucks that for some reason there are still, even as these companies are hiring for other roles, there are layoffs.
Yeah.
It's like it makes you wonder if it's just like, if it's purely just a matter of mismanagement, or if it's just an unwillingness to invest in these you know, game studios and you know, media outlets, of like, you guys have the money, you just don't want to, you know, spend it on the thing that you just bought. And it's like, I don't know which answer is worse, honestly.
Well, Jeff Grubb tweeted, who was affected by all these swirling layoffs because of his coworkers at Giant Bomb. He just tweeted, "If you're trying to make sense of it all, don't. I promise there is no sense to any of this," which is like the frustrating, kind of nihilistic but accurate ultimate viewpoint of all this. You know, it's like,
what they were acquired 3 months ago, is that right?
Yeah, 3 months,
barely 3 months ago. That's how it feels, right? It's like, I'm not a businessman. I don't totally understand how to run a company and economics and all that stuff.
Hey, I have a business major.
Oh,
and I'm saying it's dumb and doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it just comes down to the basic, like, if I bought this thing that I deem valuable and to so quickly turn around and go, actually, because it's like it's not even enough time to, at least in my mind, give it a chance to become as successful as I guess you thought it would be or wanted it to be. So to kind of like get cold feet that quickly and be like, actually, nah. And I understand that
time.
Things change in the, in the world, and like you mentioned, Alex, like the United States doing less than hot, like economically right now, and really since the pandemic started. I don't know. It's just like, that's just doesn't seem like it's enough time. Like, at least
Here's my personal take on just like the state of commerce. And I joked about having a major in business. I do have one, but I don't know anything about. Like
he's holding it up right now.
That was years ago. Yeah, I've got it behind me. That was like 10 plus years ago.
Yeah. By the way, I was a business major as well until my now wife at one point halfway through college was like, "Why are you a business major?" And,
yeah, exactly.
And I didn't have an answer to
Exactly.
that question, so I switched over to something different.
Same. So obviously being cheeky about that, but we have proof that inflation is happening, obviously, right now. But all of these huge companies are recording, and I encourage people to go and read, like there's plenty of sources out there that you can read about all of this from, very notable sources. But like, so many companies are recording like record profits in like the last year. Yet they're also talking about like this recession's coming and all this. My take is that's just like an excuse so they can further squeeze the most out of their employees under this like recession that maybe will happen, maybe won't. Inflation's real, but that doesn't necessarily mean that a recession is real. But you've got these big, large companies who are like, you see Jeff Bezos like, "Hey y'all, recession might be coming. Let's spend a little less," and it all just strikes me as rich people trying to get richer.
Yeah, they should pay taxes.
Yeah,
Let's do
definitely.
that. Let's get that going.
Yeah, it's just really frustrating, man. Especially when like your friends and people you have personal relationships with that are affected by this almost constantly in the industry of video games.
Yeah, 343. What a rough year they've had since Infinite's launch, and some of that was self-inflicted, and I think the person you cited that kind of threw blame at management or whoever on top. But yeah, just after spending the last like pretty much all of 2022 trying to get that game up to snuff, at least.
Also, my personal take, Halo Infinite has great multiplayer, and I've constantly said for like the last 8 months that I think like the reception or like this narrative that they have like fumbled the bag is like exaggerated. I mean, obviously it's not exaggerated, but it almost feels like a problem of perception rather than reality. Like, I play Halo Infinite and I'm like, this is great. Like, it's got all the offerings I look for in a free multiplayer game, but then they haven't been able to shake this narrative surrounding their product being subpar. It's very strange. Like, they're
not really. I mean, it's maybe I'm just so used to like how jaded fans can be of like, once you get a stigma, it's very hard to shake it off. Like, you could do like,
it's a free game, y'all. It's a free game that is great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically not free.
Oh, no, it's free to play.
It's on Game
Multiplayer.
Pass.
Multiplayer. Oh, right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a free to play game.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. I guess maybe I forget because
the campaign is Game Pass, but yeah, the multiplayer, which is what everybody talks about, is completely free to play. And that doesn't mean it's not devoid of you can't criticize it, but it just context, right?
Right. Like I think there's some validity to the complaints about like content and lack thereof, especially in those like first like 6 months or whatever. But yeah, it's still it sucks to spend all that time trying to get it to where fans are okay with it, and then your reward is, hey, you don't work here anymore. And especially hearing that a good portion was the campaign teams. Personally, I think the campaign is really good in that game. At least I enjoyed it. It was weird to see campaign teams. I would just assume that once that was done, they would just work on other aspects of the game, It's like
like DLC. I think they were kind of talking about this being like a platform to publish Halo stories through.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot about that. Like, what does that mean now going forward of like their roadmap and stuff. Like they haven't really spoken about like single player DLC and like a outside of the implication that it's coming because of how they presented this as like a 10-year platform. But does that get, I mean, it seems like that would almost have to be pushed back, any announcement about that at this point, right? If they are hit as hard as it seems like they were. So yeah, I don't know, just it's just another sort of like snake bite for that game, unfortunately.
There's also news that Joe Staten is now going back to Xbox Publishing.
Yeah, he left on his own, right? He wasn't. It sounded like he just resigned. He's not like affected by this.
He just kind of like moved over to the Xbox Publishing side. I don't know if that's just weird timing or what. But he had,
who knows?
He had rejoined the Halo team in 2020.
Like he pretty much helped finish it, right? Like
yeah,
he kind of
that seemed to be kind of the idea. Yeah,
get it across the finish line.
But hey, hopefully, like the silver lining, other studios. I mean, these people are super talented. Like 343, like those the folks are no joke. Like scoop them up.
Yeah, same with folks at the Coalition, who's a team I've been wondering what they've been up to for years now. Yeah, give like Alex mentioned, if any opportunities, whether it's on the dev side or media side, hit those people up.
Well, let's get into the topic of the week, which is a bit lighter. The Last of Us HBO show has been released to the public. The first episode. I'm kind of mad I wasn't one of the people that got the early screening because I watched the first episode and immediately wanted to watch the rest. But yeah, because there's only one out, right? They're just doing one a week, right?
Yeah.
Which stinks. I thought they released 3 at a time. So I finished the first episode, ready to queue up the second.
Yeah.
It was like 2 a.m. and I was sorely disappointed.
So that means, so I'm the only one that has not had a chance to watch it yet. You guys have. Does that mean, like, just right off the bat, that this show is good?
Yeah, this show's good.
Yeah, I was even kind of, it's still a little weird because it's almost sometimes like a 1-to-1 recreation. There's been some fun scenes going around on Twitter of people.
I've seen some of those.
Yeah,
like the shot for shot, like I guess remakes or whatever.
To the point where, like, honestly, like my only complaint. And the reason I watched the first 2 just to assist with like coverage, like I had a chance to interview Druckmann and Mason and like a roundtable ahead of the show. And like the only reason I don't really see myself personally continuing to watch it is because it is so close to the original. And I mean, I started replaying the remake. Was that late last year, I guess?
Yeah. And
that was like my reaction was kind of similar. I was like, oh, this looks really good. I've played this already. Thank you. And so like that's sort of my reaction to the show is like, this is really good. This looks great. Good performances. I've played this already. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate the live action textures pack added to this game.
But I mean, there is all the new stuff, at least in the first 2 episodes, are just like added content. Like you get to see more of the characters. You get to see more of Sarah. There's more context for what the disease is. And like even in the second episode, they spend more time explaining things. Like the first episode opens with like a flashback to an interview from the 60s of like a scientist warning about this going to happen, basically, and everyone kind of waving him off. And then the second episode does something similar where it's like we go back in time again to see an early reaction to this stuff, and then it gets back to the main story.
Did they redo the original, like the prologue with Joel's daughter and all that stuff?
A little bit.
Yeah. I talked to it was a round table, so like everyone only got to throw like a single question out, which is always a frustrating way to do these kind of interviews.
Yeah.
But one of the things in that brief opportunity to talk with Neil Druckmann about it was I was like, I played it on PS3. When it came to PS4, I played it again. I played through it again in the remake, and now in the show, again, I've witnessed Sarah die like 4 times, and it's like it's painful every time. Like it makes my chest tighten every time. It's not fun.
I should write a ranking of the best times.
Oh my god,
she's died with all the versions of it.
Yeah,
that would do great. Is it? I really love Pedro Pascal, and I like Bella Ramsey from Game of Thrones. I think that's the only thing I can think of that she's done. It's the cool bear girl.
I mean, she's great, but yeah, I don't know if she's done a lot yet.
How are they as Joel and Ellie in this show?
I really like them. I feel like both of them are really good picks. I was not necessarily skeptical about them as the actors, but it was nice to kind of see both of them. They definitely have like a really good chemistry, I think. I think Sarah and Joel had a better chemistry, but I mean, that's kind of the point. They're daughter and father. Like, I'm not sure the actress's name who plays Sarah in the show, but her and Joel had a really good on-camera chemistry as like this father-daughter relationship. And obviously Ellie is in the source material, Ellie is very hostile in the beginning of her journey with Joel. So I'm sure that's missing on purpose. Kind of be out of character, I guess, otherwise. But I'm excited to see how their chemistry builds as the characters in the script get closer.
So Alex, you're all in, right? You're gonna watch the whole show. You're excited?
Yeah, I think I am, which is funny because I've continuously said I thought it was kind of silly that this was being turned into a 1-for-1 remake of the games. Like, I would have probably preferred and still prefer like a side story in that universe, or like a backstory, like fleshing out the backstory of like side characters, you know. I think that'd be cool, but I mean,
well, that's still in there.
It is a well-produced show, regardless.
Yeah, they spend more time with side characters for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm always so torn about it because it's like, well, okay, the adaptation. I know the original source material. I love it. I think for like let's do something different. But then on the alternate idea of it, it's like, well, maybe you don't know the source material, so you might as well get the best version of it, which is like the Joel and Ellie story. Like, that's The Last of Us. Like, maybe it shouldn't be anything else. You know, I don't know the answer to that.
You know,
question.
It's funny. I was wanting to replay The Last of Us Part 1 because I never finished Part 2. I started playing it, you know, it was the height of the pandemic. I got through about 12 hours and was just like, this is really dark. I'm going to go play more Animal Crossing.
It was a rough time for that game to come out.
Yeah. And so I never went back to it. And I've been wanting to restart Part 2, which is daunting because that game is a lot longer than the first game. And I was like, well, maybe I should just play through the first one. And now that this show's coming out, I've decided, no, I'm just going to watch the show. It's the same story. And I'll probably save time by doing that than playing through the game.
I definitely want to check it out. I'm kind of with Kyle, where the fact that this is such a faithful remake, on one hand, that's like what a lot of video game fans like beg for, right? When they do an adaptation, it's like, why not just do the game? Like,
I think that's cool for games that aren't as
cinematic already.
Yeah.
Because like The Last of Us, one of the things that made it cool was like, oh, this is like a prestige television show as a movie or as a video game.
As a game,
right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's the same thing with the Ghost of Tsushima movie coming out of like, well, that game was based off old Japanese films, so now we're gonna make a movie.
We're just gonna make a new age Kurosawa film.
Yeah, so you're like, I don't know if I need that, and I'm wondering if I need this, because I respect that they stuck to the original game's template as well as they seem to have based on what I'm hearing, but as I'm getting older and there's more and more adaptations, I'm becoming less interested in that, and I would prefer more of like, I would actually, even if you stick with doing Joel and Ellie, I kind of would prefer that you remixed it up a bit, like add new characters or like new scenarios, because again, if I want that story, I'll just play the game, you know, in its many iterations now. You know, like have them go to a new location they haven't been, and maybe they do.
Yeah, I think it branches more as it moves along. But the first episode in particular is very like literally the same dialogue often in many instances.
Yeah, and it's like, do I need to hear that again? Outside of maybe some really pivotal lines, or like, okay, you shouldn't change this, but like other than that, just I'm just more willing to like hear the keys, drive wherever you want.
Sure, yeah.
I will say it is fun seeing a real camera's perspective shooting this stuff, like, and the fact that like there are some wild scenes that happen in The Last of Us, the game, and it's cool to, I mean, obviously there's like special effects and all that, but it's really cool to kind of see how they've, you know, in a game you can make any structure or building or landscape you want, right? And in film, you have to find that location or build it or whatever. And it's really cool just to see the on location shots that they've come up with to like match with the cuts in the game. And that's more of just like a production, an enjoyment of like the production of it, not necessarily like the thing itself. But
yeah, I want to check it out. I don't know yet if I'll stick with it because of how it's just the thing.
You should watch the first episode. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
I will.
If nothing else, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely will. Like I said, I love Pedro Pascal. I'm down for pretty much anything with him at this point. And yeah, I want to see how I definitely want to see how the creatures look. Like, I've only seen the glimpses of like clickers and the trailers, but I kind of want to see like a full scenes. They look pretty good from what I've seen. So
I heard that they did get the motion capture folks who did it for the game are also doing it for the show, which is pretty cool.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just higher level models.
Do we know if this first season is the entirety of the first game? Or is it like, I know it's just set within I don't know if they've said ahead of time, like will this end with the ending of the first game, or is there going to be?
I think they have said that that's the case. Yeah, I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just wondering how long it takes if this show blows up in like a big way. Like, when do we hit Last of Us Part 2 territory?
Yeah.
You know, like,
and what do they do after that? Do they just end it? I feel like HBO is gonna be knocking on the door for.
It's
for
like
more.
Game of Thrones. You know, HBO is not afraid to continue making an adaptation without any more material from the source. So they're like, I don't know. Neil Druckmann said he had a rough idea of what Part 3 might look like, and we'll just make a whole season based on that.
Yeah, kind of funny. But yeah, let's get into the playlist. This is the part of the show where we talk about the games that we've been playing in the past week. Kyle, we're going to go over to you because you've been playing the most recent release. It's not even out yet. You have previewed Tchia, which is the game that we did a really cool feature on in the magazine 2 issues ago, I believe, where Matt went to New Caledonia with the team behind Tchia. And yeah, I really recommend everybody to go read it. I think it was 12 pages of his trip to this remote island. To learn about the culture and people that Tchia is based on.
Worth pointing
really
out,
cool.
It's spelled with a T.
Yes.
Silent T.
Yeah.
Tchia.
I played a demo of it. I don't know, like, I think I basically started from the beginning. I think maybe it like bypassed some of the like opening cutscenes and stuff like that. But I think basically, like, I think the first time you have the ability to sort of go off wherever you want is where I started. And like, I was very impressed. I actually kind of went in. I'm trying to think of how to phrase it, because like I'm optimistic about that game, but I'm also like being a realist. Of it's like a small team, they're trying to emulate some Breath of the Wild ideas, which is really ambitious, and so like I want it to be really good. I'm hopeful for it to be good, but I kind of went in like ready to throw some asterisks at it and be like, this doesn't work very well. This doesn't feel great, but I was very pleased with the game. I thought it felt really good. I really like the way it looked. The animation is really good. One of the things you can do is like climb basically any tree and kind of rocket back and forth to slingshot yourself into the distance, and then like throw up a paraglider to like float to the ground. And that simple action just like feels really good. And the environment is varied and different. You can turn into any animal. And they all do like weird stuff, and they play differently. Like I turned into like this warthog that I just saw running around, and like I could dig in the ground. I jumped into the soul, I guess you could say, of a bird, and like flew over the mountains and was like
that's cool.
Pooping while I was flying around. You know, that's just good, pleasant, fun gaming. You know,
is there a poop button?
There's a poop button. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I had to poop on purpose by pressing a button.
Oh my. But
it just like I kind of went in it's like we'll see how this goes, and walked out being like I want to play more of this. This is really cool. I'm eager to play more, and I was just impressed. Like I like what I played. It really feels like you're playing through the imagination of this girl who just like lives on this cool lush island. Like, you know, I like it, and I'm eager to play more. They don't have a release date. All they're saying now is early 2023, but they don't have a specific date yet. And we're in early 2023, so I don't know when we're gonna actually get to play the thing.
How many different animals were there that you could kind of turn into?
I mean, I saw 3, but like you can also turn into inanimate objects too. Like there was like a rock that I inhabited, and I was like rolling around the island as a rock. I found these like lamps that I could turn into, and then I could like eject myself from it and fling the lamp to like create an explosion. I swam around a little bit, but I didn't encounter any animals. But you can turn into turtles and dolphins. Like there's a ton of stuff that you can turn into. I really scratched the surface.
Okay, that's cool. I really want to try that game out for myself.
It's very pleasant. It's not dangerous really. It's just nice.
Yeah.
It looks good. It's a game I've been following since they announced it like a year or two ago now. And I'm happy to hear that it's as fun as it's always looked in every trailer that it's shown. Like the fact that it's got some like Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild DNA in there.
Yeah, definitely.
That definitely speaks to me. I think it looks really nice. And yeah, I want to get in there and just like turn into everything, basically. I want to see how far they push that mechanic and how they apply it to puzzle solving. But even just the more pleasant stuff like the like playing the ukulele I saw in like a trailer.
Oh yeah, that's like super detailed. Like you can play any note, you can play chords and single strings and
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's going to be like The Last of Us Part 2 where people are going to have videos of them playing just covers.
Yeah. Like honestly, yeah, it is that detailed. But yeah, hopefully, I mean, very good first impression. Hopefully it sustains, for the full game when it comes out. Yeah.
Awesome. I've been playing a game that apparently came out. Actually, not apparently. I knew it came out earlier this year, but it came out August 2022. It's called PlateUp. Apparently, it's one of like the Yogscast games, which are, I believe they typically focus on games that are more like YouTuber friendly. I mean, the Yogscast, I think, started as like, it's like from a YouTube channel, a European YouTube channel, I think.
I was going to ask, what does that mean exactly, YouTuber friendly? Like it won't get demonetized if you put it up? Or?
No,
it means random stuff happens so that a YouTuber can go, whoa!
I think they're typically more like multiplayer focused.
Is it wacky? It sounds like
it's wacky. Yeah.
I mean, it looks like, what was the game you compared it to, Alex? I can't. Overcooked.
Overcooked,
right? Like, what makes it different than Overcooked?
Yeah. So PlateUp, you are cooking and serving dishes, much like you do in Overcooked, but instead of just dealing with the kitchen, this is you're managing the front of house. You're managing like administrative things, like you can, place some calls to get like people that want to come eat at your restaurant. You're kind of like also building out your restaurant as you progress through each level, because this is a roguelite. So imagine Overcooked, but it's four players, and it's a roguelite. So as you are going and making progress, and it's a hard game, you are expanding your restaurant and its offerings. You're adding new decorations. You're deciding if you want your restaurant to appeal to like really fancy people, or if you want it to be like more of a fast casual restaurant. And all the while you are cooking up stuff. You are managing how many tables that you want to put into your restaurant's dining room based on the estimated group sizes that are coming into the restaurant. Because if people are waiting outside for too long, because there aren't any tables available, then they are going to leave. And if you miss one dish, or if somebody from the outdoor line leaves, you lose and you have to start over.
That's not how restaurants work.
I know. But so that's kind of where the roguelite elements comes into play. And so essentially,
Marcus, just to be clear, you also can't climb a tree and slingshot yourself into the distance and
I mean, you could. I just can't guarantee that you will have a job after you do it.
Or a life.
And so as you are completing these rounds, things are obviously getting harder, but in between rounds, based on your previous round's performance, you get money to spend on the restaurant. And so let's say, you're doing a pizza joint, right? And this was a problem that myself and my friends ran into, where we had progressed our restaurant far enough that our customer base was expanding, and so we needed to learn to make a mushroom pizza to appeal to more taste palates. And so that required more space, more counter space, because we didn't have enough. And so in between rounds, instead of focusing on upgrading the oven so that it was, more efficient, or upgrading the decoration to expand our customers' patience meter, we instead chose to invest in more counter space. And there's like upgrade mechanics where like you can, in between rounds, you can sort of like sacrifice one of your objects by putting it into this research station. And if you make it through that round, let's say like you want to upgrade your oven, you can turn it into a microwave so that it's even faster. And so it's this really fun multiplayer cooking management game. I really highly recommend it. I actually heard about it on the Fire Escape cast from Mary Kish was talking about it during their end of year talks. And I'd never heard of this game, and I sent it to my friend group, and we all started playing it. We've probably played 3 hours so far across a couple of nights, and it's really fun. I really like it a lot.
Is it just because you compared it to Overcooked? Is it like, are you actively controlling the like servers or like the employees and running around doing stuff? Because everything you're sounding, it sounds almost more simmy, just because of all
not
the
at all
things you have to manage.
There are only 4 employees. You are the 4 employees of your restaurant. So
okay.
you can decide, okay, so I'm playing it with Jesse Vitelli, Ken Shepard, and Eric Van Allen. And so, for instance, when we play, Ken is usually in charge of running dishes back and forth from the front of house to the back of house and cleaning them. Jesse is typically cooking food and preparing dishes. Eric has been more of a front of house guy, making sure, like, as people eat, they make messes. So like he's in charge of like cleaning up the messes, because that is like a detriment to like your restaurant success, as well as he like takes people's orders and sends it back to the kitchen, and is in charge of delivering food once we prepare the dishes, which is what I've been doing. I've been like the guy who is taking the cooked food and putting it on plates so that Eric can go and deliver the food to the guests, because everything's on a timer, right? So once you take a guest order, there's only a limited amount of time you have to fulfill their order. And before another guest can come and sit inside, you have to make sure that table is cleared off. And so it's just like really fun back and forth. It's very hectic, but it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it if you're looking for... I don't know how it plays with less than 4 people. You can play 1 through 4 people. I'll have to look in to see if there's like an AI component, or if the difficulty adjusts,
Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah.
I used to be a server for 4 years, and I've actually worked with that amount of people for a whole restaurant of like 1 person in the back, maybe 2 people in the front, and then 1 person that's host. So I can attest from personal experience that having less than that is a problem. Because usually that's like the bare minimum. That's basically a day shift. Most restaurants, honestly, is that many people.
But like when you're preparing the food, think of the mechanics. They're very similar to Overcooked. Where like, okay, I need to make a tomato sauce, so I need to make a pizza, for instance. I'll take the tomato, I'll chop it twice to turn it into a sauce and not sliced tomatoes. And then I will take my flour, I will combine it with oil to make a crust. I'll add the pizza sauce. I'll add the tomato sauce that I made on top of that. Then I'll get a slice of cheese, and I will process that into shredded cheese, and then put that on the dish, and then I'll put that in the oven. And then I've got to let that cook, and then take it out. Then I've got to slice it up. Then I've got to add it to the plates. So it's all of those steps that you might be familiar with from like games like Overcooked. But the cool, the added benefit of like investing in your business is you can start to automate things to make things easier. So like we got like an automatic pizza slicer we spent our money on in between rounds. And so instead of me having to sit there and cut up each individual slice of pizza, we would just set the piece of pizza on the counter next to the I think they called it like the portioner, and the portioner would slice it up every time I needed a new slice, and all I had to do was put it on the plate. And so that kind of idea is applied to all aspects of the kitchen and front of house. Like you can get an upgrade that lets you take orders orders remotely from the back of house, because like, you know, there will be like tablets on the table or whatever that people can place their order. But the you know, downside to that is now people have less patience, so you have to get orders out quicker. It's a lot of fun. It's called PlateUp, and highly recommend it.
Nice. Thank you for making me hungry for pizza now, by the way.
Oh yeah, I was playing it last night. It was a problem. I was like, okay, I just need to go to bed. Don't order any food, Alex.
Don't make a mushroom pizza.
Don't do it.
But yeah, I recommend it. It's a lot of fun, and I'm really eager to keep playing more. With that being said, let's go over to Marcus, who's been playing a couple games himself.
Yeah, real quick, I finally wrapped up Pentiment recently, which I had started playing not too long before the Christmas break, and I like that game a lot. I think it's super cool. I'm a history nerd. I've always loved history, and that game, you know, I can attest to its historical accuracy because, like, 16th century Bavaria is a bit of a blind spot for me, but yeah, you know, but I have enjoyed I have enjoyed listening to legit historians talk about the game, and as far as I've heard from them, it's like incredibly accurate in a way that's pretty remarkable. But it's been a learning process playing it because of that. I think that game has a really nice sense of place, you know, with it taking place in one town throughout the entire thing, and just the characterization of everyone, how I realized how attached I was to all the residents of that town, to where it was always exciting and sometimes heartbreaking to see how they progressed in their lives, because it takes place over like many years. So, you know, you're like, oh, I meet this person, you're like, oh, I like this guy, then years later you're like, oh, he's dead, like he passed away. Or like even kids too, because of the, like, it's an accurate depiction of like the mortality rate of the time, of like, oh, that cool kid I liked has passed away, like, oh god, okay. And then just the murdery mystery stuff is, I really enjoyed solving that. I think that the ending of the game, without getting specific, kind of turns all that in its head in a way that was a relief in some respects, of kind of realizing that there's no black and white answer to what you choose in that game necessarily, and that the game is a little bit more about how stories are passed down over time and how they change based on how people repeat and interpret them as you go. I think the overall sort of poignant message at the end of the game, it was effective, you know. There were some things I was less cool about. I think the running around kind of wore on me after a while, especially towards the end, and you know, you don't move the fastest in that game.
Is there a hidden run button that nobody knows about?
If there is, they hit it very well, maybe too well, because I was hitting many buttons. Like, is there like a little maybe like a jog I could do here? Like,
I just remember when everybody goes to the Rapture, or everybody's gone to the Rapture, that being like people like reviewed it, and then on the other end we're like, oh my god, there's a run button.
But I found that, and that is, calling it a run button is deceitful, because it was a less slow button, really.
Less slow.
But yeah, I think that game's super rad. I think if you have obviously a vested interest in this period of time, I think it's worth checking out, just for the way to incorporate the historical elements into the like main narrative, and give you a really good sense of what it was like to live in that time. But also just presentationally, like the art, the way they use the art for like the text, kind of as like another almost like personality trait, using it to showcase everyone's sort of standing, their social standing or their profession, I think is a really cool idea. And yeah, I had a great time with it. I'm glad I finished it.
That's awesome.
And the other thing I just started playing finally was The Case of the Golden Isle. I literally started playing it last night, hearing former editor Joe Grote as well as others sing its praises. I was like, oh, I got like a gap right now. I can start this up finally. And, I don't know if we've talked about the game before previously on the GI show, but the idea is that it's like point and click adventure style where you're trying to solve mysteries, like usually like murders or like just weird deaths by like you look at these static scenes and you're kind of clicking around and building a database of like keywords, whether it's like inspecting a journal and like, okay, here's a guy's name, I'm gonna click his name, and you literally get the first and last name in your like inventory pool, and you're just collecting basically words. And it's kind of like Mad Lib style, where you're trying to figure out what happened by taking the words that you found by poking around, and then you see sort of the solution with like blanks. So it'll say like blank died by doing blank to blank so that he could get blank. And you're just trying to fill those in by using all of the environmental cues of like, okay, I think I know who this person is based because I saw a letter with their name and it hinted at a thing he's wearing. So I think he's this guy. So I'm going to put his name here. And then it confirms like, okay, this is that guy. That's a good step. Now I need to figure out, what happened. And it's really fun so far. It's like, it's chill because it's a nice game to sort of like curl up to and have like a nice cup of coffee and be like, I'm just gonna solve this cool mystery. But it's like engaging enough where I don't want to cheese it, because it seems like when you get to a certain point you could probably brute force your way through it, but like I'm just gonna put every word in a slot until it says it's right. But it's also like they make it hard enough to do that because there's certain like combinations that would just take a long time to figure out how you got them in the right sequence, especially when it comes to like first and last names, if you're not really looking. But it's a game that makes it pretty clear that like everything you need to solve it is like right in front of you. So like it encourages you to keep like just really keep poking around. There's a hint system that I haven't used yet, but I've heard the hint system has like multiple layers where they literally are telling you like, hey, maybe keep looking. You don't really want to know. Like you got this. You're almost there.
It's like an encouragement system as opposed to a hint system.
It's like, we could tell you, but are you sure you don't want to give it another look? Were you playing on PC? Are you typing in words, or you use a controller, or? No, you're just using. I'm playing on
point
Steam.
And click, right?
Yeah, it's point and click. So you're just like, when I say you get the words, like when you select a word, and you'll know what you can select, it'll highlight it. But like, say I'm reading someone's journal and their name's like John Smith. If you literally click John Smith, it adds that name to your word pool.
Oh, okay. So you're not
like
typing
separately.
out John Smith. Okay, got it.
No, you're just dragging them into like an empty slot to be like, okay, here's a blank spot for a name. I think it's Jane Smith. I'm gonna drag that here and see if it's right.
Right, got it.
And then it'll tell you how close you are. Like there's almost like a like warm hot system. Like it'll tell you like, oh, 2 or less of these words are wrong.
Okay.
So then you're like, okay, so I'm close. I need to change like maybe one thing around here. But it's got this very bizarre art direction too. Like it's not a good looking game, but it's kind of by design. It's just very unsettling, maybe is the word I'm looking for.
All right, a little creepy.
Screenshots. Yeah, it's got like an old school like 90s PC game look, but like mixed with like old MTV animations. Like it looks like
oh, this is okay.
It's like
I've seen screenshots of it, but you're saying like old MTV animation. I haven't heard that. That makes it all more interested.
It reminds me of like old Mike Judge, like maybe Beavis and Butthead era Mike Judge, but like maybe slightly weirder and more digitized. So it's in a weird way, it kind of like keeps my attention because you look at characters and you're like, this person just looks hideous or kind of scary.
I need to check this out.
Yeah, but I'm enjoying it so far. Like I'm definitely gonna finish it. I'm actually really excited to get back to it tonight, and because it's just a fun sort of like series of puzzles to unravel, and it's already gotten like more complex, even up to like the third mystery was the first time I really had to stare at things and really consider like, okay, am I reading this right? Or is there's like a little, what I thought was a minor detail is actually the key to solving who this person is or what their profession is or whatever. And I think so far, the way they kind of like connect breadcrumbs or try to get you to connect breadcrumbs is really neat, and everything makes sense. So yeah, I'm excited to see just like where it gets to at the end. And there also seems to be an overarching mystery or story that I'm gradually starting to piece together as it goes. So
cool.
Yeah, it's neat. It's really neat.
That's awesome. I watched some friends play through this, and I'm excited to see, having seen like the end of that game without playing it for myself, I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it once you have concluded the story. Apparently it goes places, so yeah.
It's weird, man.
I know.
It's a weird game.
Awesome. Well, we are about at the hour mark. Do you guys want to get into some listener emails? Is that cool?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Well, before we do that, we're going to do a little housekeeping. We always start housekeeping off with our new podcast review. This week's podcast review was written by Cheesy Chungus 04. It's a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts that says, GameStop publishes Game Informer every month for $19.99 a year. It's $14.99 if you want digital, just FYI. If you're poor like me, this is a great show to listen to. On top of that, they cover a lot of great topics every single week. I love it. Keep it up, guys. Well, thank you, Cheesy Chungus, for listening to the show. We do try to bring the best of the magazine to online, and that includes our podcasts. So thanks for listening, and thanks for being kind enough to go and leave us a podcast review. It really does help us out.
I could go for a Cheesy Chungus right now.
Yeah. Cheesy.
It's like a burrito. What do you think that is? Sounds like.
Is it a sexual innuendo like Flat Stanley?
No, oh God. I was gonna say like a churro.
Oh yeah,
cheesy churro. No, I don't want to eat that. That sounds bad.
Yeah, I like burrito better. Thank you, Cheesy Chungus, for sending that in. Of course, go and follow these two lovely gentlemen on social media. Are you two both on Twitter still?
Yeah,
going down with the ship, baby.
All right. Well, you can follow Kyle at Kyle M. Hilliard. That's with 2 L's. You can follow Marcus at Marcus Stewart 7. Marcus, we got to talk about your profile picture on Twitter. What's the deal?
I'm glad you brought this up. I've been curious about this too.
Oh, so that is from when Blake and I went to Japan back in September. We visited RGG Studio, the team that makes the Yakuza games, for a big feature that Blake did on them. And at one point during our studio tour, they took us into the digital scanning studio where they scan all their actors into the game. So like whenever they have like a famous person in Yakuza, that's where they do it. Kenny Omega was there recently.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, yeah, sit down in the chair. We're going to do it to you guys. And so they did. We're not going to be in the games as far as we know. Maybe I hope they change their mind and I'm just like some dumb NPC that stands there and goes, oh, when I see like Kiryu or Ichiban hit someone over the head with a bicycle. But yeah, that is the finished product. It was very cool and kind of weird to see myself as like, wow, that's just me, and it looks a lot like me. But just
okay.
With a bunch of
that would explain the hair situation. Yeah.
Well, technology, video game hair, as we all know, has famously been mostly bad.
You've got some little devil horns going on. It kind of looks like
that's got to take a whole other team to model it by hand, and they're not going to do that for me. So
okay, well, we've solved the mystery. Of course, you can go and see the photo for yourself by following Marcus at Marcus Stewart 7, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I use Twitter a lot more, but I do post photos from our work trips on my Instagram once I'm able. You can follow me on both of those places at It's Van Aken. And yeah, of course, shout out to our podcast editor, Matt Storm, / DJ Stormageddon. They edit this show every week for us and make it sound great. If you want to go and support them, go and listen to their podcasts, Fun and Games and Reignite Podcast, the latter of which is a BioWare-focused podcast. So that's all the housekeeping for today.
Did you plug Kyle and I's Super Replay that is
No.
currently ongoing? We're playing Silent Hill, baby.
You are playing Silent Hill, and people can go to youtube.com/GameInformerShows, which is our second channel where we upload our live stream archives. So if you're wanting to catch up on that those replay episodes, and go and watch live on Fridays, go to youtube.com/GameInformerShows, and then watch the thing live at twitch.tv/GameInformer.
Yeah, hang out with us.
We're getting near the end, you know?
Yeah, a bad end, it sounds like.
Last week, we got in a boss fight where the strategy was to wait for the character to run out of bullets and then pour liquid that we arbitrarily found in a hospital earlier on them. So it's going strong over there.
What a moment.
Yeah, wow. Iconic.
Thank God for chat, because there's no world where we
Top 10 boss
that's
fights.
what we're supposed to do.
Let's get into listener emails. If you want to be involved, you can email us podcast@gameinformer.com. You can ask a question in the Discord, which you get access to by subscribing to us on Twitch, or from the Overblood Facebook group. We've got some questions here from Ian Bauer, Jordan Bays, R. Phillip, and Aaron Cutton. We're going to be answering their burning questions. So we'll get to Ian Bauer's question from the Overblood Facebook group. And Ian asks, is VR gaming going to end up in the same place as 3D gaming? By that, I mean, is it going to be a weird little niche area that is slowly forgotten about in the next couple of years?
I mean,
so 3D, I guess I want to get the 3D gaming. Do they mean like with 3D glasses?
Yeah, remember the last big push when Sony, like in the early 2010s, was really like they had the 3D TVs and
yeah,
you could play Shadow of the Colossus in 3D, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Killzone, Crisis 2,
which is weird because those games are already 3D.
Yeah, stereoscopic 3D. Yeah.
Yeah. They had that dedicated line of TVs, but that I think I need to check this, but I could have sworn someone told me that they still manufacture them in some parts of the world. You could still buy one. I don't think you can in the States, but
I had one, and I remember the most I got out of it was inviting people over to look at Crisis 2 with glasses on. But when it actually came time to sit down and play a game on my own time, I was like, oh, I'm not going to put on these glasses. I don't want to do that.
Was the side of it on the side of the TV, did it just have a giant dial that you could use to change the intensity of the 3D? They probably should have done that.
Yeah.
I was going to say that I think VR has more staying power because it's already lasted at least twice as long as the 3D.
I mean, we've been talking about VR and its current iteration for going on 9 years, right? Something like that.
I was in college for a graduating party, and one of my classmates did his final demo in Oculus, and that was 2013.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was freshly married when I was listening to Jeff Kanata talk about Oculus on DLC and Weekend Confirmed, and that was the year I got married. So yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's already had way more mainstream penetration. It's had way more support. I mean, we're about to get a new PlayStation headset next month. The Quest 2 wasn't that long ago. I think it's already infinitely more successful, and I think that it's already proven it's not going to fizzle out in a couple years. I think it'll still be a thing in a couple years from now. I don't know if it'll ever hit super duper mainstream, it's as big as a traditional console or PC, but I mean, for where it's at now, where the Oculus being pretty popular, and also it helps that you can buy those without the cord now and just use them. But yeah, I'd still say that VR as a whole has done a lot better than I kind of thought it did maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, the conversation for the last 10 years has been, when is this VR trend gonna end? And it's been almost 10 years. It's not really a trend. I mean, it is still a trend, but it's it's not a fad, right?
I don't think you can be a 10-year fad.
Yeah.
I mean, They're two different things. Like I don't know if the comparison really lines up either, because VR is a platform for unique games, where the 3D stuff was like they were trying to augment current games. You know, it was just like an extra feature you could add to a current game, and which is
kind of like when you could the whole smartphone companion.
Smart glass. Yeah. Where I mean, there's experiences in VR. There's plenty of experiences in VR I can only have in VR, exclusively in VR. You know. Yeah, it's the thing that I've seen from VR, which is surprising to me, is like it's this weird place between like hardcore gaming and not being a gamer at all. Like I know like a couple of like, you know, parent friends who don't play video games really, but they bought a Quest because it just seems like this kind of cool new technology, and they might play it like once a week or something.
It's almost filling the spot like the Wii did at one point.
Yeah, except I guess the only difference is like I think the Wii was still appealing to the hardcore people, where I think a lot of hardcore people are like, I'm good on VR. I'll just stick with my PlayStation 5 and my PC or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be niche. I don't think it's ever, like you guys said, I agree with you. I don't think it's ever going to be like you got your PlayStation 5 and your Oculus whatever. Like I think it's always going to be this like separate thing that's doing different interesting experiments over on the side. And Beat Saber DLC. They'll just always release Beat Saber DLC.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Steam Deck. Like I think the Steam Deck I think the Steam Deck in the long run will likely surpass VR in terms of its like widespread appeal. But right now, maybe I don't know. Maybe that's.
I think so. I mean, I think because people who like video games, like the hardcore people want Steam Decks. The hardcore people don't really want VR.
Yeah, I was thinking more like the casual audience. Like I don't know if it'll penetrate
that. I don't know
because of the barrier of entry price.
Yeah, but right now they're both kind of like these specialty items that are more so secondary to a lot of, you know, like Kyle say, a lot of core gamers habitual playing. It's like this cool, okay, I have some extra money, let me check out this new piece of tech that is like delivering games to me in a different avenue than what I'm used to.
I think VR has hit the point finally where it has enough mainstream recognition, especially from like TikTok and YouTube videos of people doing dumb stuff in VR, that I've seen people that have that don't know anything about video games, don't follow video games, but they can see an Oculus and they know like, oh, that's VR. Like I know what that is.
Yeah. Half my TikTok videos are just like videos of like children screaming at other kids in VR, or like one of my favorites recently has been the guy who plays Among Us VR and just chases little kids around and like makes them scream and then like turns on them and gets them kicked from the spaceship. It's really funny. Well, cool. Let's move on to the next question. This one is from Jordan Bays, who asks 2 questions. Do you have any super replays you really want to do in the future? Have you considered Signalis at all? It would be a fantastic fit. And then their second question is favorite cookie that isn't chocolate chip.
Okay. Super replays that we'd want to do in the future. Gosh, I don't have any off the top of my head. Marcus and I have one that I think we're going to do next. That I think we can tease as another like PlayStation 1 game. I think that's as far as we'll go because we haven't fully committed to what we want to do next. But man, I don't know. I don't know, Marcus. Do you have anything you're just dying to super replay? I don't know.
There's some. I don't know if I feel like I know this answer, but now that I'm being put on the spot, like all of my answers are flying out of my head right now. I know, like Kyle mentioned, we have a few in mind. I think we did decide on one, Kyle, without saying it, but I'm pretty sure we
haven't. Okay.
We came to the decision of what it's gonna be.
It's another PlayStation 1 horror game, and just keeping up with replay tradition, you know.
Yes, it is. I would like to do Metal Gear Solid. I would love to go back and do some like 16-bit stuff. Like I always thought Chrono Trigger would be a cool one to do if we could ever like do an RPG that maybe wasn't a bajillion hours long. And I think Chrono Trigger is one of the more reasonable.
I think it's like 20
length
or
ones.
something.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, that could be a cool one to do. I would love to eventually go back to doing bad stuff. You know, especially if you're playing it, Kyle, and I say that because you're not me. But I mean, I'll play something bad, like even stuff that maybe was replayed in the past that wasn't super replayed, like a Countdown Vampires or even Resident Evil Survivor. If we want to.
That'd be interesting.
Survival horror train. If we can,
okay.
It would be a matter of like, since we don't have a studio, it's a little trickier of like getting access to the games and then figuring out if we have a platform that can stream them easier. Then so that's like really the only big hurdle. There's stuff on. I've been meaning to run through like Game Pass because I know they got a lot of older stuff on there to see like, I can just download this and play it now through like backwards compatibility or whatever.
I bought one of the PlayStation Classics that has like, like the console that has like a bunch of games on it. And then I told you, Marcus, I went and bought. I had the PlayStation 3 hooked up because we're playing Silent Hill on it, and I went to the store and I bought a bunch of PlayStation 1 games. Purely just to make sure I have them before they disappear. Like both the Mega Man Legends games, which have already been super replayed, but then also like the Tron Bond game, the original Armored Core. I just like bought pretty much everything I was even like marginally interested in that was on the PlayStation Store, just to have it on a hard drive in the future,
Yeah, like I have a bunch of those on my PS3 hard drive. I got like Tomba and stuff, and
right, yeah, Tomba 2. I got Tomba 2, and I didn't have Tomba 1 for whatever reason, but
I've got an SNES Classic laying around here somewhere, and the Switch Virtual Console alone is there's a lot of stuff on there that we could, if we want to go the 16-bit, 8-bit route. There's plenty of stuff there we could tap into. So yeah, I guess that's the answer. Is the sky is. I mean, maybe the sky's not the limit, but it's close. Like it's like the stratosphere.
Yeah, I just like it as an excuse to finally play those games I've been putting off my whole life, like the original Silent Hill.
Like I've loved it for like beating. I had to beat Dark Souls finally. I'd never beaten it, but because of like Dan Tack pushing me to play the remake, I finally finished that game.
Hold on, Daniel Tack pushing someone else to play a From Software game? Just like,
can you believe it?
I can't believe he would do such a thing again.
We ate Hot Wings doing that too, which was fun. So yeah, I guess that's a long answer to that question, but
all right.
Basically, have faith. Kyle and I have a bunch of ideas, and they're all good. As for the cookie, what do you say? Like the best cookie that's not chocolate chip?
Snickerdoodle.
That popped in my head actually. Snickerdoodle, I think, is severely underrated. If you can get a good Snickerdoodle,
my grandma makes them fresh. Oh,
that sounds good.
They're so easy to make too, but a lot of people think that it's just a sugar cookie with cinnamon and sugar, and it's not. The cream of tartar makes a huge difference. That is pretty much the primary difference between the two, and you can taste the difference. But yeah, I'd say a Snickerdoodle and like, does an Oreo count? Are we going by like brands?
Yeah, I think so.
Because like an Oreo is probably the real answer here. Like, who doesn't like a good Oreo?
I mean, maybe it's offensive, and I'm sorry, but I'll go to bat for an oatmeal raisin. I like a good oatmeal.
Oh, I love oatmeal raisins.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not alone.
Raisins in my top 3.
Yeah,
in my top
you
3.
You guys are old people.
Nah,
I can't stand raisins. That's my hang up there.
Well, I don't like raisins outside of oatmeal raisin cookies. Really, I just like the oatmeal cookie part.
You know what's even better is chocolate chip oatmeal cookies.
Those actually, yes, those are better. Right, but like, I don't know, there's this oatmeal raisin just has this reputation of like, everyone's like, get that out of my face. I'm like, no, you guys are wrong. It's good.
Oh my god, I had an oatmeal cookie ice cream scoop when I was in Los Angeles last time. Oh my god, it was incredible.
Was it like an ice cream sandwich with oatmeal cookies?
No, it was like ground up oatmeal cookies in the ice cream
with raisins.
Actually, it was raisinless. So I'm gonna say oatmeal cookies are one of my favorites. Oatmeal raisin,
I'll accept it.
Not so much.
Yeah, I like a good oatmeal cookie sans raisins, like the oats, the cinnamon, all that stuff. That's totally fine.
I'm glad we came to this consensus.
Yeah, we found our compromise.
2 questions left. R. Phillip from the Overblood Facebook group asks, my question for the show is, what is everybody's current gamer score? Maybe there's a fun little competition in there. Okay, hold on.
Pull up
it's funny.
I gotta fire up the Xbox app.
I did notice this last night when I booted up my Xbox to get like Persona and stuff downloaded. I was like, oh, that's my score these days, huh? I wish. Here's what I know. Mine is over 100,000, which is why.
Okay, you win.
You win.
Do I win? Is it that easy? Okay, because like
mine is high, but
Let me see, because that was the because I love achievements and trophies and stuff. I like to get them. I don't care about the number, right? Like the overall number is not what I'm chasing. It's just that if I love a game, I like having more excuses to keep playing it and try to get all the achievements and stuff. But it did surprise me the other night when I was like, oh, I broke 100,000. I'm at 6 digits.
At one point in time, I was an achievement hunter, but that was back when achievements first came onto the scene. From 2006 to 2012 is when I really care about achievements.
I mean, were you guys there day one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I brought my Xbox 360.
Oh, do you mean day one 360 launch?
Yeah,
Oh no, I was not.
Okay,
I was a few years later.
I was working at GameStop retail. I pulled it, into my dorm, my college dorm, and I was definitely the only person in the vicinity that had a 360. And I was
I think I got it a month or two
I was chasing
later.
achievements from day one. So maybe that gives me a lot of. That's why
I'm at 46,000 only.
Okay,
because pretty much after 2012, I kind of.
As a lapsed achievement hunter, less than 50,000.
Yeah, well, I just started playing PlayStation for everything, and kind of fell off of Xbox. And then I would play a lot of multiplayer games where you would only really get. Halo was always really good about multiplayer achievements, but a lot of games didn't have great multiplayer achievements.
Right.
So I'd sink a ton of time into them and get barely any achievements.
Okay, I have mine. So despite being accused of hating Xbox, my gamer score is 72,241.
God, the achievement hunter has the least. What's happening?
I said at one point I was 15. My friend, though, that I was I also just gave up because my friend Josh, who at one point in time we were neck and neck, he got a job at GameStop, or his brother did. And so he started getting a bunch of games on discount.
Bringing home
I remember
Avatar.
one year, I think we were both at we were both close to 30,000. We went from 5,000 to 30,000 in the span of a year or two.
Oh, okay.
And then he skyrocketed to over 100,000. And now these days, I could probably look it up, but he's probably close to 200,000. And at a certain point, after he hit the initial skyrocket, I was just I'm done.
There's no.
But I have I'm proud of some of mine. I've got 100% on the original Modern Warfare, which is a hard one because of Mile High Club on Veteran. I've got a few of them.
I don't think I have any 100% on Xbox. I have a few platinums on PlayStation, but somehow I guess I just never. And I've never been an achievement trophy chaser person. The few platinums I have on PlayStation, which is 4, were the rare exceptions, and it was kind of just well, I'm close enough, and these are attainable. I guess I'll do it.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just if it's a game I love and I finish it, and I'm I don't want to stop playing yet. Then it's then I'll go after them.
For instance, I probably have 600-700 hours in Fortnite. I have 0 achievements in that game.
Oh, yeah, that game's bad because it's all in the campaign.
Say, how do you? Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you get? I probably have
campaign
a trophy then, because I was a Fortnite founder. I was one of the OGs that were there from day one. I got the special thing to prove it, the glider.
Yeah, got all the Portal 2 achievements, Somerville recently, which is funny because I played that game on PC and then I went and played it on Xbox and got all the achievements.
Feels nice, right?
Inside and Limbo. Limbo is probably my proudest one because there's you have to beat the game in fewer than 10 deaths, I think. Which is tough.
I wonder, I might have all of Insides. I think I remember trying to actively get all, because I don't think Insides had a lot and they were attainable. And I was and I played that game twice, so maybe that's the one. I'm too lazy to look.
Inside is another one I'm very proud of. I love, if you know me at all, you know how much I love to play dead games and play them repeatedly. Inside, I got all the achievements for, and I did it before the game came out, which means there was no way to look up that final puzzle. I figured it out myself, and I'll always be incredibly proud of that because it's not an easy puzzle. You got to listen to sound cues and patterns and find this room where you enter a bunch of where you have to push a lever up, down, and left and right in a specific order. And yeah, it's I'm sure a lot of people are able to just look it up with a guide these days, but I couldn't.
I've got 860 out of 1,000 on Quantum Break.
There you go.
You're missing one TV show you have to watch.
I'm looking to see what I have.
I was gonna say, at a glance, the ones I'm closest to are Control, which I didn't realize. I like almost 80% of the way through Control, Artful Escape, and The Gunk.
The Gunk? Like, that's so random.
Yeah. I guess because it was like a smaller game. I thought that game was fine.
Oh,
but like,
nothing against that game. I played a little bit of it. It's fine, but it's like it's not one that it's funny that that's one of the ones that you were like almost got all the
yeah, I have like just shy of 90% of the achievements somehow. And again, this is all just passive. Like I never look at achievements going into games or anything. So whenever it pops up, I'll do the thing of like reading the description. I'm like, oh, what the hell did I do to deserve that?
That's funny.
Yeah. Oh, actually, this might be the winner without going any further in my history. Life is Strange Before the Storm, Episode 1.
Nice.
I have 90% of the achievements.
That's funny.
I guess I'm missing like 2, maybe. I got to make a bad choice in that game to get the other ones.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, maybe my goal for 2023 is to catch up with you guys on Gamerscore.
Oh, I do. I have all the achievements in Inside. Never mind.
There you go.
I just found it.
Yeah.
That is the only 1,000% gamer score I have. Okay.
That's awesome.
That's a good one.
I think my only 1,000 is the Call of Duty one, and Child of Light. I have 1,000 on that.
Oh,
random.
Man, I forgot about that
Child
game.
of Light. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That was a cool game.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. And then I have like probably 5 platinums on PlayStation. I don't have a ton. I'm not a completionist.
Sadly enough, I have 0 in Battleborn.
Oh, yeah.
Never
rough,
get any more.
Aaron from the Overblood Facebook group asks the final question of the show. Will video recordings of you guys together doing the GI show return at some point? Just listening is not the same, but I get why it had to happen. Hoping it can go back to the old way. Yeah, that's something that we've been talking about. I mean, that's honestly was a goal from the very beginning was, hey, I don't want this to be like a forever change, but it was just kind of like the way that the show is currently produced, we would need to change in order to facilitate that. And it's just a matter of making those changes and if they're worth it. I've heard resoundingly that a lot of the people in the community want video back. And I'm definitely wanting to make that happen at some point.
Yeah, I'm a proponent of that for sure. But
behind the scenes, definitely.
With the recognition that I think people underestimate how much it complicates things, just in the post-production element of it. It does make it harder there. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we can figure something out.
Yeah, we send off the edit to be edited just from our editor, and we've got a process down right now, and so we'd have to change that process amidst a lot of other stuff going on. But I hear you, and I've been brainstorming. I'm about to move in a month and want to get that over with before.
Nah, dude, moving's easy. Moving takes like an hour. You're fine.
I know. But if I'm going to do a video podcast, I want to have like a cool set because I'm that person. And yeah, so we're talking about it.
Boards behind you. And honestly, just full disclosure, we've gotten a lot uglier since you last saw us. So like you think you want to see us again, but like I don't think you know what you're asking for.
Yeah, Marcus told me my hair looked bad before we started recording. I think it were your exact words. You said your hair looks ugly. Is it right? That's
I
what
asked,
you
like,
said,
why?
Marcus, right?
I did hear that.
I said, has it always been red?
Is that what you really asked?
Didn't it used to be a better color?
No, I think I said I didn't like the way my hair looked when we first started. And
I
was just like, let me
same.
Fix my hair. And Marcus was like, oh, I think it looks good. It looks the same as it always does. I was like, how could you?
Yeah, the tried and true
right
response when, if anyone has any like partners out there that ask them, hey, do I look okay? And you say, you look the same. And you think that's a good answer.
They love that.
Usually isn't.
Yeah. Well, you've been heard, Aaron, and there are people both behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, I guess, that are, proponents for that happening again. So yeah, thanks for your patience. Well, with that being said, everybody, let's wrap this show up. Again, go follow Kyle and Marcus on social, at Kyle M. Hilliard. That's with 2 L's at the end. In Hilliard, that is. And then Marcus Stewart at Marcus Stewart 7. And you can follow me at It's Van Aken. Of course, review the show. We really appreciate it. I see there's a lot of folks rating it on Spotify. So if you're listening on Spotify, go and leave us a 5-star review if you don't mind. It's actually easier on Spotify because there's no words that you have to write. You just click the button. If you're on Apple Podcasts and you take time to write a review, we'll definitely give you a shout out and read it off, as it definitely helps us out. All right, everybody. We will see you next week. We've got some exciting weeks coming up in terms of cover stuff, and it's just going to be a good time. I think people are going to be excited. But yeah, we'll talk to everybody next week. Goodbye.